everyone. I'm Edyta Mosińska-Duralska. I'm a senior sound level designer at Techland. Today I have the honor to represent audio team at Digital Dragons. And I will tell you a few words about our approach to open world audio in Dying Light 2 Stay Human. First, I would like to introduce myself. I graduated in sound engineering and acoustics in Poznań. After that, I was working in a Polish radio in Poznań, where I was preparing all sorts of audio assets. I was recording interviews, audiobooks, music, live concerts. In 2017, I decided to finish my radio life and start a game dev adventure. So now I'm at Techland. I'm here as sound senior level designer. I worked on Dying Light 2 Stay Human, Dying Light Bad Blood, and on some DLCs to Dying Light. I'm responsible for cooperation between audio team and the level design team. I make sure that every quest has all sounds that it needs, that the audio is immersive there. I'm also responsible for music implementation and, of course, for open world audio distribution in our games. Now let's get familiar with Dying Light 2 Stay Human. I think the best is to show you a game intro.
Civilization is a vulnerable thing, a whim of circumstance. At any time, the smallest flap of a butterfly's wings may set catastrophe in motion. Haran, an entire city wiped from the map. Those left behind there did not stand a chance. The world's greatest minds came together and found a vaccine against the Haran virus. Finally, mankind had prevailed against the disease. But people always want more. Despite a promise to shutter its labs, the GRE continued its research in secrecy for military purposes. It didn't take long for a variant of THV to escape into the world once more. The fall happened more rapidly than anyone could have predicted. The few who survived now live in small enclaves. The only means of contact between distant human settlements are lone individuals, brave or desperate enough to travel on their own across dangerous wastelands. They are known as pilgrims. Somewhere on the map, one city is still standing. A city isolated from the outside world. A city with special rules. Now, it's the last bastion of humanity. A chance for us to learn from history. And for once, make the right choices. Because every choice you make here shapes the future. Irreversibly.
Yes, Dying Light 2 Stay Human is open world action role-playing game. It's a sequel to Dying Light from 2015. This time, action takes place in a Villedor city, mankind's last stronghold in a fight against the virus. The player, Aiden Caldwell, is a pilgrim, one of the few men brave enough to travel through the decaying world to carry goods and news. He is trying to find out more about his past. He seeks for his sister from which he was separated when they were kids. Sound level designer is responsible for open world audio in-game. But what does it mean? My job is to make sure that every interior, so for example, room or hall, And every exterior, so for example, street or a wood, has appropriate audio. If you see a tree, you should hear sound of leaves. If you enter a cave, you should have appropriate audio, ambient and reverb. Ambient is specific sounds that you hear in a given space. So for example, in a cave, you should hear water dripping, bats, rats, some sort of low drone also would be nice there. And reverb is something that defines space. If you yell in a cave, it will sound different than yelling in a small room. Tools that are used are emitters and ambient zones. Emitter is a simple prefab that can play 3D sound. So sound that is located somewhere in space. We can tell its direction. And its volume will change as we approach. So the closer we are, the louder it gets. And ambient zones are zones that define ambient and reverb. Our ambient zones have basic settings like, of course, ambient and reverb, size, priority. They can set a parameter depending on what height the player is inside. But what is more extraordinary about them is that they can play 3D sound outside and 2D sound inside. So if you approach the zone, but you are still outside, you can tell the direction of the sound and its volume will change. And if you go inside, the sound will be stereo and the sounds will be all around you. It gives a better immersion of soundscape, and it also makes audio sounds more realistic since the sound is not fully connected to the zone. The sound doesn't start exactly at the boundaries of it. It's very useful for areas like woods or lakes who should behave just like that. I would like to present that functionality to you on the movie. It's made in Techland 2, of course. Only music is muted since we want to focus on ambiances. Or not. Sorry. Let's try again. Yes. So as we approach the lake, we start to hear water waves. The sound is 3D. We can tell the direction of the waves. Yeah, if we go inside, the sound will be 2D, so the water waves will be all around us. The bees are also the nice example of the emitter, simple emitter. And the same functionality has forest ambient. Now it's 3D, and if we go deeper and deeper into the wood, it will become 2D. One of the game pillar is vast open world. Dying Light 2 map is about double the size of all the maps from Dying Light 1 combined. But what is more important is that it's much more vertical and it gives many more exploration opportunities. There are hundreds of buildings and each one of them has at least a couple floors. There are also skyscrapers, roofs and bridges, so the city feels even bigger than it is. In fact, I have measured the Villisdor city when I was preparing this presentation, and it is 12 square kilometers big. So you can imagine with how big open world we have to deal with. In Dying Light 1, when we built Haran, it was all built manually. Every street, door, and of course ambient zone was placed there by hand. And the scope of the city allowed us to do this that way. But here, since the beginning, we knew that we want to have a very vast open world and a very large city. So we knew that this is no longer an option. So the tool was created that allow us to build the Vilidor city. It's called City Builder, and City Builder allows the user to draw a city plan just like urban architect would do. With this tool, there is no longer a need to place every door, wall, or a street element manually on a map. City Builder builds city using edges and areas. Edges are straight lines that can create, for example, street or a river, and areas are shapes formed by edges, and then can create, for example, square with buildings, woods, or lakes. At the beginning of the project, when City Builder was taking his first steps, so he was a baby City Builder, I did not have a possibility to connect ambient zone to its edges and areas. And you know, my life was sad and miserable back then, because just imagine that you have worked all day on some part of the city, you've added all ambient zones, everything is perfect, everything sounds great, and the next day you open the map and everything is changed. Every street, square, river are moved or changed, and your ambient zones stayed where they were, because nobody told them that they need to move. So you fix this, everything is perfect again, and the next day or a few days later, the same story. Fortunately, it didn't take long, and I got the tool that I needed. This tool is called Exterior Ambient Generator. It's a part of a City Builder. And from now on, if an edge or area got such a generator, it was generating ambient zone every time this edge or area was changed and the city map was rebuilt. But still, I wasn't very happy because process was very time-consuming, and I needed to put a lot of effort into that. Every new element on a map needed to be checked, and appropriate generator needed to be added. And the process was also very repetitive, since we had to fill the same settings over and over again. And very soon, in the middle of the night, I could tell that if the new edge on the map is, for example, narrow street, it should have, of course, narrow street ambient, narrow street reverb. It should have 8 meters width. It should have 5 meters height, and it should be longer, 4 meters longer than the actual edge on the map. So the next step we make to make this process more systemic and user-friendly was to create presets and templates. For presets, we gathered and sorted all data that similar things on a map shared. And as you can see, we have presets for all edges and areas that can appear in our map. And and templates are presets, but for new things that will be added to map. So, for example, if level designer was adding new edge and it's supposed to be narrow street, he or she was picking the right template, and automatically all presets to all generators were applied. So now if something new was added to map with template, it has all audio that it needed right away. And if something was added without the preset, without the template, we got presets, so I could apply the right generator very fast. At that point, exterior open world audio was resistant to all iterations and changes on city map. All I needed to do was only to check and tweak things. So from full-time job that was made almost every day, it became something that was done twice a month, and it was enough. I've told you already about the areas. For exterior, they create, for example, wood or lake, but in fact, their main purpose is to deal with building distribution. These color squares that you see inside are in fact lots where buildings will be placed. A list of settings gathered in scripts determine if and what kind of building will appear in a given area. In script, it's also defined what kind of interiors will appear in a given building. For me, it was like a city builder is playing Tetris and he is picking the right building and putting it into the right lot, and the same building is playing Tetris with interiors. I'm not the creator of a city builder, so I'm allowed to simplify things like that. Only one constant part of an interior is its shape. We wanted to have a possibility to use, to change interior usage, amount of loot, amount of windows inside, furniture through gameplay. So one interior can be kitchen, attic, or living room, depending on in which building it will appear. That unfortunately means that we cannot use ambient zones here. In ambient zone, all settings, and of course ambient reverb is set once and it doesn't change through gameplay. And of course we want to have a different ambient in the kitchen and different in the attic. So we came up with room boxes and room logics. Let's say for now that room box is just a box that has a shape, and room logic has a logic but has no shape. So together, when they are connected, they have the same functionality like ambient zone. But what is important, here we can change its parameters, so ambient and reverb, through gameplay. Scripts that allow us to do this are called configurators, and by them we can change the audio, but also the things that I've mentioned before, so amount of loot, amount of infected inside, furniture, usage. And room boxes are also used by lighting system. So it was also an optimization in our game, since two systems shared the same zone. And it was also very nice, because room boxes were applied to interiors by a lighting team and level artists, so I did not have to do this. Now I would like to present you this systemic open world audio tools, so City Builder and Exterior Ambient Generator in action. So this is me creating my test city on my test map. I've set up all the presets, templates, and configurators. And here we go. We have 3 squares with buildings. We will have 2 areas with woods, the green one. And I will also add 2 areas with chemicals. Chemicals are toxics that player cannot really get in because he will die. And here we are in a game. We have chemical ambient, we have a street ambient and a wood one. As you saw, it cost me really nothing to have this open world audio. I just draw things and everything is right away there. Also, you can see why I should stick to the audio, not to create cities in games. So now let's go to the rooftop. In Dying Light 2, ambiences differ on a rooftop and on a street level, and I will talk about it later. Also, you may feel that these ambiences are a little bit empty. I will also explain that in a minute. So now let's go to the interior, check if everything is okay there. So yes, we have an ambient, we have a reverb. And the last thing we can do is not only hear ambient sounds, but also see them. Here they are. This is all that came straight from the City Builder tool. I mean, at first, it was all that we wanted to have from it. All exteriors and interiors got an ambient and reverb. It was populated on a city map without any additional time or effort from audio team. Level designers and level artists got full freedom of making changes and iterations. All we need to do was only check and tweak things, and of course, keep presets, templates, and configurations updated. But after a while, we realized that City Builder can give us more. Almost all systems or gameplay mechanics are somehow connected to City Builder, or at least they use data from it. So for us, as an audio team, it was also a great source of information and inspiration for what we can do with sound to make it more immersive and gameplay related. Since we had a solid system for open audio distribution, we had time to focus on a more creative part. And now I will tell you a story behind the design of ambiances in Dying Light 2. So some additional data that are taken from a City Builder to create our ambiances are, for example, regions and zones. Villedor City has 2 regions. Region 1 has 4 zones and region 2 has 8 zones. We have a zone owner, which can be peacekeeper faction, survivors, or bandits. We have zone mood, which can be safe, unsafe, or natural. And we have zone difficulty, which can be below, within, or above player rank. And this is also why ambiances on my test city felt a little bit empty, because I don't have these zones there. So for example, if we are in an unsafe zone, and this is survivor's turf, the sound that we will probably hear are dog barking, upset one, aggressive. Sometimes you may even feel like it's some kind of a zombie dog. Survivors attacked by infected, people crying, screaming, people in pain, people running away, and all type of construction type sounds. Survivors is a group of people that farm and build things mostly from wood. And if you are at the peacekeeper's turf, you will hear peacekeepers fighting, screaming, soldiers yelling, and peacekeepers marching. Peacekeepers are rather military type of guys. One of him you can see on our station and our safe zone. So when creating an ambience, we wanted to have in it sounds that will have an information for a player, sounds that will matter. We didn't want it to have some random sounds that will just play. Sounds should be gameplay related and useful for player. With the sounds, he doesn't need to check in what kind of zone he is. He should feel this. So let's hear the actual ambient from Dying Light 2 game. Once again, the music is turned off since we focus on ambiances. And if a zone is safe and we are at survivor's turf, we would hear different different type of farm sounds like animals, bells, people building something from wood, kids playing, people laughing. And at peacekeepers' territory, we will hear armor handling and fixing, peacekeepers playing music on some sort of homemade drums, soldiers running and training, and soldiers sharpening weapons. And once again, let's hear that.
You want this open or don't you? This place blows. Hurry, hurry, hurry! I'm going fast as I can.
My grandma can pick locks faster than you.
This way? Or maybe not.
Are you kidding me? How much longer is this gonna take?
Hold your horses. Easy, playing with a viral. And when you come back, it will be finished.
That's what you said last time.
Last time, I was wrong.
In Dying Light 2, ambulances also differ on a street and rooftop level. Our art design and direction for Dying Light 2 says that street belong to infected. They are dangerous, and players should feel like the city is abandoned there. So the mood is scary, depressive, sad, and the sound that you will probably hear there are scary dark drones, metal creaks and squeaks, debris and dirt falling all around you. And on a rooftop level, the opposite. Rooftops belong to people. Mood is more peaceful, optimistic, full of hope. So the sound that you will probably hear are peaceful calm wind, trees, birds, insects, and different sort of people activity. So once again, it's taken from a real game video. And the night ambience. The night ambience is a little exception of those rules that I have just mentioned. I mean, it differs on a street and a rooftop level. On a rooftop, you will hear people in pain, people screaming, infected screaming, infected, hunting down people. And this is the basic zone of this ambience. But if you go to the street level, this will be muted, and you will mostly hear dark, sad, scary drones, and the actual infected that are on a street. Of course, there is no safe variation of this ambience because night is dangerous all the time in our game. And also it doesn't much differ regarding the zone owner because during the night all zones belong to infected. So yeah, once again, I would like to present that on a video. So to sum up, thoughts that I wanted to share with you today regarding the idea work smarter, not harder. Work hard on the systems for audio. They will pay off later when you have time to focus on the creative part of sound design. Imagine how time and effort I would need to put into open world ambience distribution if I didn't have a city builder and the exterior ambient generator. Also, check what kind of data other systems use. It can be a great source of inspiration for you to make your audio more immersive and gameplay related. When creating an ambience, think about what is important for player and what kind of information you could and should give him through your sounds. You know, the time when audio and music could only be played in music is over. We are now in an interactive audio and music era, so, you know, sky is the limit. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Edyta. And now time for questions from the audience. Do you have any questions?
Thank you very much, Edyta. It was a very informative talk for me.
Thank you.
One question I'd like to ask you, because you may correct me, but I haven't really heard the answer. With so many layers in ambience, like you were showing the lake area, the lake and the forest area, when you were layering the ambiances and you were basing it on a placing and reverb, were you also actively equalizing the ambiances by rolling off higher frequencies and leaving the source?
Yeah,
because I think when you were showing it with the people screaming in the background, I was able to hear the difference between a very articulate screaming like "I'll kick your ass" and like "whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa." So I'm wondering if it were like two different samples, one recorded for the distanced sound, one for the close, or was it the same?
It's these two
sample
things that you are
equalized?
talking about at the same time.
Okay.
Because this lockpicking thing, it was actually it was chatter or bark. So actually you can go to this NPC and he will probably talk more about this. And these shouts in the background are just made for ambiances. They're also localized, so you can hear it in the different languages. But there's something shouted in the air, and you will not find this guy who told this. So they are also muffled, so you can really tell. We don't want the player to be interested in that. So he heard something very clearly, and he's looking around, and nobody is there. And with this lockpicking thing, you will actually can go to the peacekeeper, because it was peacekeeper talking, and you will, maybe you can interact with him. Maybe he will have a quest for you.
Okay, so
and the second part you have talking about also, there is the old system of mixing, ducking, equalization. If I want to talk about it, I will have to need another 55 minutes, and probably my technical sound designer will be the better person to explain that. But yeah, there is a lot of going on. You see, we can differ the sound regarding the rooftop and the street level, regarding the zone owner, but also we go in Dying Light 2, we got really crazy. In fact, we can change sound depending on in which quest which quest player is playing, and also in which part of this quest he is. So in some extreme situations, I can even go and okay, the player is in that dark zone, so we shut off the audio at all. So it's so extremely. Of course, we don't do this because we want to have players to have fun. But yeah, ambiances and all sorts of sounds also differ if player is playing the main quest or he is playing the side quest. If he is playing the main quest, but he decided to have a pause, and he is just exploring the world now. Also, our system recognizes that, and all the mix of audio is changing.
wow. Right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any more questions? Here you go, and you have next.
Okay, I have two questions. First of all, when you were presenting the ambient boxes, how did you? What was your process of placing the boxes in irregular shapes, like circles, or, for example, if the river is curved?
Yeah, we have a tool. It's called some universal shape of box or something like that, and I can just, draw whatever I want.
Okay.
Or I can pick a circle. Or...
Okay, thanks. And the second question might be more technical. How did you make more variation in general ambient sounds? For example, like birds shouting in the distance, or what was it in the loop, or maybe you did some inside magic?
There's also a magic. Of course, we have a lot of recordings. This is the basic because, with two shouts, you cannot really do a lot. And after that, we change pitch, we change volume, we use the states.
I mean, like how often they play or when they play in the time.
It's all set in wise. We use wise, and we set the delays or everything is there. Yeah, like here when I was recording these ambiances, in fact it take me a lot of time. Because, in a real game, it's not like you go to the rooftop, you have all sounds at once. Birds, insects, people laughing, blah, 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 blah. It took me a long time to feel the right, perfect timing. So the delays were so short that, actually you could hear all the examples. But in the normal gameplay, probably once you will not hear that as much. Because, it's not, all game is not about ambiances, unfortunately.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. And another question?
I have two questions. First one is partially answered, but I know now that you used WWise middleware. My question is, did you use Wise Motion to vibrations?
I don't know really. This is
Okay.
but best it will be technical sound designer or programmer.
Okay. So my second question is, this city builder tool looks like a great tool. It's only for sound and logic, these boxes, or it can be used to AI? It's connected in any way, AI and
Yes,
this?
yes. I don't want to speak about the AI because I'm not a part of this team, but also through configurators and presets, we can also change the generators for an AI in interior and on the street. So also they can change the amount of infected that will appear in a given area, and during the day it will be less of them, and during the night there will be more. So it's also connected.
It's on the outdoors, I mean, because I know that AI areas in buildings are for each floor separated boxes. Yep.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
If you want to know more about the city builders, this time my friend Łukasz Burtka was also talking about it, so you can watch later this on YouTube.
Thank you. Any more questions to Edyta? Yes. Here we go.
Hi, I'm Michał. Thank you for the talk. It was amazing.
Hello. Thank you.
I'm sorry for asking not about the game, actually, but I wanted to ask about your professional career, because you mentioned you worked for the radio. Actually, I did as well, also for Polskie Radio, just not in Poznań. And I was wondering what your job was and how it kind of helped you out in switching from media to game dev is kind of a thing, I would know. And then I was wondering how much it helped you, and how many of your skills you used when you became a game developer.
Yeah, so for me, it was very useful to work in a radio because I was sound engineer, so a part of this live part of radio live, so broadcasting live auditions, I was making a lot of audio assets. I was working at the same time in a radio recording studio, so I was preparing. I was sound designer back then, but I did not have background in the games, and to be honest, one day I just decided to focus more on the sound design part, and I found out that maybe game dev is the best place for me, since you can create sci-fi sounds like cosmic ships, and you can create some very organic jungle woods. So it's heaven, and I was looking how the games are made. I was watching tutorials and materials about this. I've started to work in Wise. I installed Unreal back then. I did my first very simple games. So when I have a little bit of background how the games are made and how it works, Techland was hiring. We are still hiring, so I encourage you to go and talk to the girls. And I was at the right time, in the right place, and also this fact that I have an idea of how the games are made, and not only the audio part, because in game dev it's all connected. I sometimes feel like I'm a little bit of animation team part and dialogue team. You have to know how this living organism is made alive. So if you are, maybe you may be surprised, but for example, in sound design, especially at Techland, 50% of our work is tech, and city builders, scripts, and so on. And 50% is about the actual sounds and creating sounds.
Thank you, Edyta. Final question, anyone? Okay, here you go.
Hi, really quick one from me. In the example, according to what you just said, that the whole game is not only about the ambience, and the example you just showed us felt really rich in the ambience sound. Were they somehow exaggerated for these showcase purposes, or was it like real game?
Yeah, it was
footage?
a real game, but I need to sometimes stand on a rooftop for 5 minutes and pick the part that was actually interesting for you. Okay. Because in a real game, you don't want to have all the sounds over and over again and very rapidly. It's there are all different sounds, not only ambiances. So it was. I was just standing in a place and recording for about 5-10 minutes, and after that I choose the part that was most representative.
Okay, I get it. Thank you. Thank you for the talk.
Thank you.